Hello, good evening. Welcome to Lofi-LIVE, Democracy Unplugged, Political Science, a place for all nerds, and Mrs. Sparkles, who's absent, but we miss her well. How's everyone doing tonight? Doing well? Yes. Everyone's in the house. It's a little bit rainy out there, but it stopped raining. There's quite a few people. Y'all like nerds on like the 10th level. You're like, oh, weather's not going to keep us out. I am Michael Pickering, Dr. Pickering, Professor Pickering, aka Dr. P, to some who know me well. Today we have a live podcast where my class is going to put on a show for us. But quick, Lofi Poli Sci, we always start out with a bit of that news fresh off that press. And how many of you know now that the United Nations has finally acted after 2 years? The United Nations is going to help Haiti. That's right. After over 2 years of Haiti's president being assassinated, the United Nations finally had a Security Council vote. And on Monday they said, we're sending in the troops. Now, of course, we're like, troops? What troops? The United Nations has troops? No, not technically, but Kenya has troops. The Bahamas has troops. Antigua and Barbados, Jamaica, Spain, Chile, Senegal. So far, there's at least about 7 countries who are saying they're going to send troops. When will they reach there? We're unsure. So there's still a lot of unknown things going on about Haiti right now. So definitely keep your eyes open for Haiti. Other places in the news, let's head on over to Pakistan. Pakistan just announced that they're ordering about 1.7 million undocumented refugees from Afghanistan out of the country by next month. 1.7 million people to be forced out of a country. This is a big deal. This is a very, very big deal. That is a whole lot of people to leave in a very short amount of time. And to go where? And to do what? Keep your eyes on Pakistan and Afghanistan. There's going to be a lot going on there within the next month. Now we head on over to Australia for a little bit of maybe some good news coming up. The Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islanders, indigenous peoples of Australia, may get their own institution and government. Now what does that mean? What does that mean? So First Nationers is what a lot of countries call, for us we call it Native Americans, but First Nationers is another name used for indigenous peoples. And so in Australia, they're going to have a vote. Early voting has started, but the actual vote starts on October 14th. And if enough people vote yes, then Torres Strait Islanders and Aboriginal peoples of Australia will have their own government body that will have a say in any law that directly affects their people, their community, or their territory. And it will be the first time in the Australian Constitution that their people are actually recognized as being First Nationers. So this is a big deal. And so we see very soon, next week, the end of next week, if they get their own institution and government. Now, next up, I always like to throw a little space into Lofi Poli Sci, because I always say, look to your dreams, look to the sky. For some of us, our dreams are way, way up there. And when I say up there, I'm talking about international space stations. How many people know how many international space stations are there? How many space stations are there? Space stations, there's at least one. There is 2 space stations. There's the one we know that we think, oh, the US has a space station up there. It's not the US's space station, we don't know. It's the International Space Station. But China has its own space station. They're the only country who has their own space station. And right now, they've decided to increase the size of it by doubling it. Right now it has 3 modules. They're going to make it into 6. So right now, only 3 people are in their space station. For comparison, the International Space Station is 16 modules, and there are 7 people in the space station right now. So it's very big in comparison to China's new and smaller one. However, the International Space Station is dated, very dated, like 1998. Any of you remember a computer in 1998? Do you want to be on a space station with a 1998 computer? No, you don't. So that space station, its time's ticking away. So let's see what happens next there. Now, something everyone who knows me knows, I'm the hugest sports fan. I just love me some good old sports. Especially when it comes to e-sports. That's right, I think all the best players of sports use our thumbs. We're video game players, that's right. And big news out in South Korea for video games and politics. Bet you never thought you'd hear that, but yes, video games and politics. So how many of you have heard of League of Legends, right? That's huge, huge in the video gaming community, very big. So the Asian Games just took place, and South Korea and Taiwan made it to the finals. South Korea won. And as part of their prize, South Korea has a law that any athlete, and yes, esports are athletes, or any artist who bring prestige to the country of South Korea, guess what they get? They get an exemption from the draft and military service of South Korea. because South Korea has an automatic 2-year compulsory service for anyone who turns 18. That's why every so often you hear about this major K-pop star who goes into their draft service. Not these League of Legends people, they get free. I think it's amazing, sports and politics, right? I love it, I love it. Now, the last piece, a little, I'm not sure how to say this one, but let me start with a question. How old do you think is the oldest person who's ever skydived? We have a new record now, 104. A woman, 104 from Chicago, just broke the record. Amazing what you can do. So you're thinking, oh, that's old. Still doing all kinds of new stuff. But that's enough for me. Why don't we go ahead and start the show with our very first guest, because this is Democracy Unplugged. And so let's talk about democracy, what it is, and what better way to kind of relate everyone to it by talking about here at home first. So I would like to bring up our first guest, UNO's very own political scientist, Dr. Grace Reinke. Put your hands together, people. Take your time. Just watch Mars across that way.
Hello.
How are you, Dr. Reinke? Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And what are you bringing for the good people today? What are we talking about?
Well, I'm teaching undergrads this semester, and I've noticed some despondency when it comes to talking about democracy in the U.S., maybe some cynicism. People aren't so excited about things like the Supreme Court, for example, the things that they're doing lately. So I brought, in the style of Lofi Poli Sci, my top 5 list of things about American politics that are giving me some hope right now.
Hope in U.S. politics. I'm glad you have some, because I need some. So go ahead, give the good people some hope. We need it.
Okay. Do I have a time person?
Time's over here.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, number 5 out of 5. Do I have any Swifties in the house? Okay, a couple. So you already know this piece of news, but last week Taylor Swift made one Instagram post, and she told her, hundreds of millions of followers on Instagram to do what? Register to vote. And then after that, immediately after her post, almost 40,000 new voters in the US registered that day, right? She could be using that power for evil, but she's increasing democracy, right? We love that for her. We love Swift Nation. That's number 5. All right, number 4. This week, the Supreme Court made a decision that is going to force Alabama to continue on its redistricting process. Really great news for democracy, because for a long time the gerrymandered districts in Alabama have meant less representation for Black Alabamians. Why should we care about it? Because the same issue is happening in Louisiana districts, right? So actually tomorrow, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals will be meeting to discuss what we're going to do next about our gerrymandered districts, now that the Supreme Court has signaled that these state governments do need to draw new maps, hopefully before the 2024 elections. We'll see. That's number 4.
It's good news. We're going to get some more representation for minorities in the House.
I can feel the hope in the room rising. I see smiles. I see
That's
laughing.
right.
Number 3, fighting back against book bans. Have people heard about these book bans in libraries and schools? Yeah, a little bit scary. Not the best look for these school boards, maybe. In places like Florida, the nonprofit groups have started these online trainings to train students and their parents and activists and fund them to fight these book bans, right? To train them how to become activists in order to fight against these new rules. This is an effort that's being funded by huge nonprofits, and it's really gaining traction. Some really famous authors have lended their names to this effort. So really exciting. Fewer banned books, right?
Banning books is bad. No banning and no burning of books.
I think we can all agree. Yeah, no banning, no burning. All right, number 2. Biden continues to chip away at all of our student loan debt. Is anybody excited about that in this room?
Very.
That's what I thought, right? We all thought it was a huge blow when the Supreme Court ruled against Biden's big loan forgiveness plan last summer. But using executive actions, Biden has found little pockets of which he has control over to chip away at that big, giant, $1 trillion mound of debt that is holding us all back. So on Wednesday, he, let's see, I have the number here, 125,000 people had more of their debt forgiven, right? Thank you, Biden, for that. All right, last one. Hopefully I'm doing okay on time. It's a big one. The big democracy issue that I'm most excited about is labor democracy. How many people are excited about unions? Yay, unions!
How many of you still don't know what a union is?
Don't tell me.
Yes.
So we have a lot of exciting democracy happening inside our labor unions across the US, right? So we're having a spike, not just in interest in labor unions, but in membership of labor unions. So now a huge, what they're calling a stand-up strike among UAW, so auto workers, is happening across the country. The president of UAW, Shawn Fain, was democratically elected by the membership for the first time last year, and he's really taking that union in a militant direction. But it's not just the auto workers, right? 75,000 healthcare workers in California just went on strike this week through Kaiser Permanente. Writers, do we like watching TV in this room? Yes. TV writers went on strike a long time ago, months ago now.
In April or May or March even.
Yeah.
Beginning of the year.
Really long strike that yielded huge wins for them. So the new Writers Guild contract, it contains huge raises for everybody in the writers' rooms, staffing floors, expanding healthcare access for all kinds of gig workers in Hollywood industries. This is a huge win for a democratically led union. So those are just a couple of examples of really awesome labor democracy that's happening across the US. So even if you're feeling depressed about big national institutions like, I don't know, the Supreme Court or the presidency, there are other places we can look to find democracy. And I hope that I brought you a little bit of hope with this list.
Yes, much hope. Don't read the news, take Dr. Reinke's class. She gives you the goodness all the time.
Or do both.
Or yeah, do both. Yes, you should do both. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Everyone, put your hands together for Dr. Grace Reinke. Yes. And now we're going to segue to we're going to switch gears just a little bit, but now we're going to start bringing you up on stage. Now we're going to start bringing up my students, and I hope you're petrified because there's so many people here. If I had to guess, there's probably at least 75 people here. That's a good group of you people that actually showed up. Well done. But now we're going to go with some Lo-Fi global trivia. So please put your hands together and welcome Paymon and Jamyre to the stage. Come on up, gentlemen. How are we doing today? Are we doing all right?
Amazing.
Great.
Excellent.
Well, let's jump right into it. Paymon, you got your 5 questions ready?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Okay.
And this is for everyone. Audience is supposed to be playing, so it's them against you. Let's see how good you go. What you got, Paymon? Come on.
Okay. Let's go with something simple. What is the most northern country in the world? Like
most northern country in the world.
Like, what's a country that has like the north of the country? Like anything in the world. Think about it.
Most northern country? No guesses? So Chastity.
Correct. But what is it? But who owns Greenland?
So
Correct.
Denmark. Oh, all right. So Denmark. There we go. 1 point audience. That's good. What you got next?
You.
What are the 2 countries in the world that have a single-party democracy?
2 countries in the world that have single-party democracies. And I'm going to guess single-party dominant democracies?
Yes.
Single-party dominant democracies. Japan is 1, yes.
South Africa.
South Africa is the 2nd. That's right. Look at the crowd going 2 for 2. That's what I'm talking about. Let's keep going. What's number 3?
Okay. Number 3. How many countries that have democratic democracy around it? How many countries?
How many countries are democracies in the world? So I'll give you a clue. There's about 200 countries in the world. How many of them do you think are democracies? Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. 5, 4, 3, 2. It's a lot of unsure faces right there. Help them out. Come on. What's the answer?
Okay.
If I'm gonna guess about 84ish.
Yeah, there's like 108 total, but there's like 24 that's full democracy, 48 that's like a high, flawed democracy, and there's 36 that's hybrid.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Jamyre, what do we have coming up next?
What was the first African country to gain independence?
First African country. Correct. That was a quick one. There we go. There we go. All right. Next.
Okay, here's a tricky one. What country that has the most islands on the planet?
What country has the most islands on the planet?
Indonesia.
No, it's not Indonesia.
No.
Ooh. Canada?
No.
Everyone is shocked now. My trope is Indonesia has 17,508 islands, but yeah, you got me. Go ahead. What's the answer?
Sweden, 221 and 800 islands.
Wait, if it has 221 islands, then that's less than Indonesia's
No,
17,500.
but here's something else. I didn't say 221. I say 221,800.
221,000. Okay, Sweden wins by far. Wow. All right, building that knowledge. Yes. Jamyre, give us our sixth one.
Here's a very interesting question. If you were to list the General Assembly members in the United Nations in alphabetical order, what country will be the last listed? That's correct.
Whoa, quick on that. I like it. Paymon, yeah.
Okay, now this is a bit of a tricky one. Similar to the northern one, what is the most southern country in the world?
Most southern country in the world. What do we think, people? Most southern country? Argentina, someone said?
Nope.
That's my heart. Antarctica is always in my heart and correct.
No.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Give it to us.
Chile.
Oh, all right. Did you say that, MJ? You got to be loud with it. Yes, Cooper had it too. All right, you got to come with it. Come on. What's next, Jamyre?
What country was recently suspended from the United Nations Human Rights Council?
Ooh. Who was suspended from the United Nations Human Rights Council recently?
That's correct. It's Russia.
Russia. There we go.
All right.
These are the last two, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I get the last one. Okay, Nepal. Okay, everyone knows Nepal. What is the border surrounding Nepal?
What's the borders surrounding Nepal? What countries border Nepal? How's your Southeast Asia geography these days?
Correct.
Yo, Dr. Day in the house. Thank you for coming. Yes. All right, Jamyre, last question. What do you got?
Last question. This is the most interesting and silliest one. The unicorn is the official national animal of what country? That's correct.
Yes. Oh. Now, Vivian, you know where Mrs. Sparkles belongs. Scotland. Well, everyone, put your hands together for our Lo-Fi Global Trivia Specialist, Paymon and Jamyre. Thank you so much. That's it. Take your bow. That way.
All right.
All right, next up, now let's switch gears and bring up two individuals who got a special kind of list for us, right? So please put your hands together for Akia and Lucia. How are we this evening?
Doing great.
Yeah?
Great.
Ready for this?
Yep.
And what kind of list did you bring for the good people tonight?
So we have the list of the top 5 and bottom 5 countries for women's representation in Parliament.
Yes.
So,
And it was inspired by the candidates Claudia Sheinbaum and Xochitl Galvez from Mexico. They're the upcoming presidential candidates for Mexico. And I thought that was pretty awesome.
that's right, Mexico making its first female president ever coming this year. So that inspired your list. This is amazing. So we have the 5 countries with the most female representation and then 5 countries with the least female representation.
Exactly.
Take it away.
So we're looking at how many parliamentary seats each country has and what percentage of those are actually being held by women.
Right. And I do want, as you are listening to these lists, I do want you to keep this quote in mind. It's by Laura Boldrini. She's a famous Italian politician, and she says, most politicians see feminism as almost a dirty word. in context, she in Italy is 32% of women's representation, so that's where she get that from.
So the top 5 countries with the highest percentage of women in parliament. At number 5, we have Iceland at 47.6%. Tied in 4th place, we have the United Arab Emirates, New Zealand, and Mexico with 50%. In 3rd place, we have Nicaragua with 51.7%. In 2nd place, Cuba with 53.4%. And in 1st place, can anyone guess what the highest country with women's representation is? Rwanda. Yes, it's Rwanda with 61%.
Rwanda, 61%. Majority of their legislature is female. It's amazing.
Okay, so this is top 5 countries with the lowest percentage of women's representation. So number 5 is Nigeria with 3.6%. Number 4 is Oman with 2.3%. Number 3 is Vanuatu with 1.9%. Number 2 is Papua New Guinea with 1.7%. And number 1 is...
So this would be the country with the least amount of female representation?
Yes.
Okay, what do we think?
No, it is Yemen with 0.0%.
So the global share of women in parliament stood at 26.5% on January 1st of this year. That's a year-on-year increase of just 0.4 percentage points, which is the slowest growth we've had in 6 years. And at this rate, we will not achieve gender parity in national legislative bodies until 2063.
2063 people.
Yes, unfortunately. So to end on a higher note, or a lighter note, 2 countries elected women presidents for the first time in their history. Xiomara Castro de Zelaya in Honduras and Samiha Suluhu in Tanzania. And Samoa elected Naomi Mataafa as its first woman prime minister, a landmark not only for Samoa, but for the entire Pacific region. So that's
That is
a big stride.
excellent, good news, definitely. Thank you so much, thank you so much. Yes, put your hands together. Akia and Lucia.